So, Quake 2. If you played this game, then you should know that it was a really awesome game, whether you played the single player or multiplayer of the game. And it does have, like, a lot of people's vocal opinions on this game, and most of them are generally positive from what I've seen. But as much love and praise that this game gets, it does have two expansion packs that are the complete opposite of this game. There's not many people that talk about them. So what I decided to do is I'm going to make this video that pretty much give you guys my thoughts on these two expansion packs and tell you the differences, what they try to do to pretty much raise the standards of Quake 2, or what makes these expansion packs different from Quake 2, even though I know they're just expansion packs. But there are some, like, differences that you can at least change in that certain game's sandbox. And I think it's really cool that I do this video because when I was trying to look up for people's opinion on these two expansion packs, I didn't really get much info, so I decided just to play it by order. So I got this one and then I got that one. And with this video, I'm definitely going to be able to, give you guys my thoughts because I played these three games a lot. I pretty much know them very, very well. So I am not going to be recording this entire video like this. I am going to be talking about the two expansion packs over Quake 2 gameplay, and I am going to be recording gameplay of either of these expansion packs. It just depends on what I feel, and I will be recording over the 360 version of this game. So the main reason why I'm recording console footage is because I'm running low on space, and PC gameplay generally takes a lot out of my hard drive space. So yeah, it's best for me to record record some of Quake 2 on Xbox 360 pretty much because, well, I don't really have that much space. But maybe if I could find a way to get rid of some space, I could record more of these expansion packs because, well, this is pretty much a video about the expansion packs, not so much about vanilla Quake 2. But then again, it would be nice for me to throw in Quake 2 in the game because, well, this is really about Quake 2. Anyways, this is pretty much it for the intro, and I hope you guys enjoy the video.
So this is the part where I'm going to give the pros and cons for each mission packs for Quake 2. So let's start off with the Reckoning. The good things I can say is that this is a mission pack that definitely delivers the things that you love about Quake 2 and simply raises the standards even higher. And that's a good thing. Quake 2 had a great formula, even though it wasn't really too different compared to other shooters for its time. But it's nice that it still feels like Quake 2, and it does give you that same vibe from the original game. The next thing is the additional content is a good feature. It's pretty standard fare to see, additional stuff when it comes to expansion packs, but I really did enjoy a lot of the new stuff in the Reckoning. A good amount of enemies were pretty much reskinned from Quake 2's vanilla enemies, but they did some modification. But I think it's still a cool thing of what Zetrix tried to do, and it does give me this different feeling to the game, even though I know it's not too much of a difference. I also love the new weapons in this mission pack. I absolutely love I love that rocket launcher super shotgun hybrid weapon. It just feels so satisfying to use, and it is also pretty useful too. I think this is the weapon that is going to be the weapon for people who love using those two weapons in Quake 2, because this gun really does feel like it's designed for those type of players. The third thing I love about this expansion is its maps. I feel like a lot of the maps play well, flow well. The looks are on par, and everything that you can think of when it comes to good map design for first-person shooters. I also want to say that the maps seem to have more verticalities than Quake 2 maps, so you can find rocket jump spots and try to play the game more creatively compared to playing the quote-unquote intended way. This means you will have a lot of replay value, and I discovered some pretty sweet rocket jumps that does change the game fairly drastically. That's pretty much for all the good things I can say about this expansion pack. Now it's for the negatives. I'm not quite sure why there are some features that just seem useless, like the repair bot. It doesn't really feel like an enemy, but the game counts it as one. They are counted as kills, but they don't really act like how you'd expect an enemy would react to you. I did mention the standards are higher in this game, which is nice, but it's really not that much higher, unfortunately. I do feel like it still feels too much the same like Quake 2, but with more maps and features. Matter of fact, this game was advertised to be harder than Quake 2 to rectify the low difficulty level that Quake 2 had. The Reckoning is really not that much harder overall. It's essentially a slightly harder version of Quake 2, and to be honest, this might disappoint people if you're looking for a more harder experience overall. I was one of those guys, and I was quite disappointed in the long run. But the last problem I have with this game is the invisible barriers on certain rocket jump spots. I don't get why Zetrix decided to do this. I mean, it really does build depth into the game, but why? But when you put invisible barriers in obvious rocket jump spots, it just feels pretty sad, to be honest. Here's a clip of what I mean by this. Like I said, when I discovered about this, it left a pretty bad taste in my mouth. So one more problem is they reused the same boss in this expansion pack. So yeah, you fight Macron again, and just like Quake 2, he's just as easy as ever. Overall, The Reckoning is an awesome mission pack. I will give it a 9.5 out of 10, and it's pretty standard fare for what you're getting in a mission pack. It's not too long, and it adds a decent amount of content to keep Quake 2 more interesting to play. This one is definitely my favorite one compared to Ground Zero. Speaking of Ground Zero, let's talk about it. So, Ground Zero's first positives is the difficulty and challenge. It definitely is higher than Quake 2 and The Reckoning, and that is awesome because I'm sure many Quake 2 players will feel that Quake 2, was too easy and it didn't really have much of a challenge, but this game will please you if you want that type of experience. Rogue really made sure that this game will be harder than both of those Quake 2 titles, and the game's so challenging that even the very first few encounters I was already starting to stress out a bit. Also, the secrets are not as helpful compared to previous titles, which is a good thing because it's still going to hold up that first impression you'll have when you play the game blindly. Ground Zero also takes the standards to the highest possibilities of Quake 2, so enemy counts are much higher, and the maps are bigger and more complex. This is pretty much Quake 2 at its, highest level of experience, and you are definitely going to want this for the final mission pack for Quake 2. Next thing is the new features, some of them at least. I really did enjoy the Stalker, and it's by far the most interesting enemy in the Quake 2 sandbox to fight. And I love that plasma beam. I've always enjoyed using the Thunderbolt in Quake 1, and I was kind of disappointed that there wasn't a similar weapon to that in Quake 2, but now you have it. Last but not least are the boss fights. They are great, man. They're just so intense and memorable. That's all I can really say, because I just feel like, the boss battles in Quake 2 and The Reckoning, they weren't really that intense. And if you feel the same way as I do, I think you will like the boss fights in this game more often. So this is the negative part, and we got a lot to talk about. I feel like the game might be too hard for some people. Quake 2 Ground Zero will completely, and I mean completely, make you rethink the way you play Quake 2, because this game does not screw around one bit. If you don't like having times where you will have to die multiple times to beat a certain part, or have many moments where you will be close to death or desperate for the next health pack, I don't think this game is for you, because Quake 2 Ground Zero is so much harder. It's almost like playing a different game, basically. Speaking of that, I did not like how they added the turrets in this game. They are very annoying and cheap at times. If you don't know where the spawn location of them, you are going to get hit by them, and most of the time you cannot be quick enough to react their attacks. This does lead to some cheap deaths, and it does annoy me because I never really had any of those moments in the previous Quake 2 titles, and I also, hate how the turrets forces you to play it more defensively. I can totally understand Rogue Entertainment is trying to make you reinvent yourself as a Quake 2 player, but I feel like they could have used different enemies to really keep up the fast-paced nature from Quake 2 and The Reckoning, but this is by far the slowest one in the series. The next one I want to mention is the features. Some of them are completely pointless, like the chain fist. It's garbage, and the game is so much harder. You might as well use a gun, because putting yourself at melee range is very risky and dangerous. I don't even get the purpose of the nail gun. I literally felt like it was just there for the turrets, which you guys know I didn't like, and it's really just another machine gun with a couple of adjustments. For my final complaint, and this one isn't too bad, but there's not many outstanding or memorable moments. Everything I've seen in this game or experienced, they're just solid overall. I just don't feel like the flow or the gameplay of the maps don't feel as good like the two Quake 2 titles would. And this was kind of a problem because I was hoping, you know, this game would at least give me that end with a bang feeling, but it just doesn't do that, unfortunately. So Ground Zero, I like it. It's a good add-on. It's challenging, difficult, but it's fun and really encouraging because it makes you become a better Quake 2 player than you were before. It's also the one that gives you the most content out of the two, and the single player is surprisingly long for an expansion pack. It actually took me around 7 hours to beat it, while on the Reckoning it was only around 5 hours, and both playthroughs were done on hard skill. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. That seems to be the right score for me. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope I kind of gave you some sort of knowledge of what you're going to expect in these Quake 2 mission packs.